Hello everyone, welcome back to Nightreign. Today I have a video about the brand new update that just released on Elden Ring Nightreign that actually added a lot more content despite the patch notes not really listing all that much. They just really mentioned bug fixes and improving the drop rate of some madness items, but that was pretty much it. But in fact, they added a whole new expedition with hard mode for Gaping Jaw that is actually way different, has some brand new mechanics that I'll be explaining, but I also want to first address the new system, the new currency, the new relic system we have in the game that is really cool and is pretty much addressing every complaint that players were having with the game, apart from maybe having two-player expeditions. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So first things first, whenever you go into the round table, you're gonna notice that you have this purple expedition for Gaping Jaw that has listed above it Everdark Sovereign. This is pretty much the same Gaping Jaw as before. Now you have the harder version where he starts on the second phase of Gaping Jaw and he has some brand new mechanics that again I'll be explaining in a moment. I don't want to spoil you guys just yet. Now for the most part the expedition is going to play out the same. You're going to have a slightly different skybox, but everything else is going to be the same. So of course do your best to level up, find a poison weapon since that is what he's weak to. Try to hit level 14 or 15, and if you are playing solo make sure that you get 1 or 2 revives, and honestly best of luck with him because he is insane. Now once you finish that expedition and you are successful, you're going to be getting a brand new currency and you will be getting a message at the end once you go back to the round table talking about a brand new thing that you can interact with and use that currency on, because if I open up the menu, oh, you can't actually see it here anywhere. Well, we do have a new currency that can give you some crazy good relics like this one right here that has attack power permanently increased for each ever jail prisoner defeated, and you start with a stone sword key from the beginning and a treasure map is also marked, or this one that you get from defeating again Adele the Gaping Jaw in hard mode. That is his signature relic that gives you improved critical hits +1, improved critical hits, and critical hits earn runes. That is going to pair amazingly with this other executor relic that you can purchase straight up from that new system, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So once you get that message, you're gonna want to head over to the shore. From here you're gonna follow the path that I take. Simply come over here and around the corner you're going to find this small little wooden table and you interact with it, and this is the collector signboard. So a couple of things you can do here. For one, you can alter the Great Side of Grace, so basically whenever you defeat 4 Night Lords in the game, the Grace and the Round Table hold becomes a lot more different, it becomes a lot darker. Well, you can spend one of these currencies to change it back to what it was before, or again you can simply make it return to the darkened state if that is what you prefer. You can also change the shift in Earth to be anything you want. So if you want to go back to the crater, the mountaintop, the rotted woods, or Noclateo, if you want to farm those trophies that you may not have already, or you just want to play with these shifting Earths enabled, then you can simply come here and pay one of these currencies and you're going to be able to enable this. And I believe that doing this is actually gonna last for multiple expeditions, not just one, so you can enjoy the benefits of all of these to do whatever you want, like for example doing the mountaintop so you can get some frost resistance that is going to make the job of defeating the boss Caligo a lot easier. Or something that I did for the final boss, for example, was going on the crater map with a relic that gave my starting armament holy damage, so I was able to upgrade it all the way to legendary, so I essentially had a legendary weapon with holy damage for the final boss that allowed me to deal a lot more damage. That said, view catalog is where you're going to be spending most of your new currencies, which I forget their name. But as you can see right here, you can purchase these different urns for all of the characters. There are 16 in total of these urns and they can allow you to have much varied setups. So of course these are going to come in very handy and I recommend you to buy every one of these for the characters you play as. That said, do not prioritize these just yet. I would take a look first at the exclusive relic for the hard mode of each Night Lord. Of course currently we only have Adele, which is the relic that I showed you before with improved critical hits and critical hits giving you extra runes. But then you have some other character specific ones and these are fantastic. So for the Wilder, this one is actually not that amazing, especially compared to the final relic that you can get as part of his remembrance. This gives you Flaming Strike at the start and makes it so that the ultimate spreads fire in an area, which is of course going to combine perfectly with fire attack power up +2, but overall I still think that you have much better options and personally I'm not going to be using this. Now for the Guardian, you have reflect a portion of the damage received when you have your ultimate active. That is pretty fantastic, as you will still be getting hit by the enemies when you use it quite often, and being able to do damage while you do it is of course fantastic. You also get some ult charge whenever you successful block, and you get some extra stamina in the form of endurance +3, so all of these are fantastic and I think are a great asset for the Guardian. As for the Duchess, I actually do not like the relic that the Duchess has, become difficult to spot and silence footsteps after landing critical hits from behind, and improved critical hits. It has some synergy there, but honestly I don't think that you're really going to take advantage of the first passive, so I would outright just discard this relic. Now this one is fantastic for the Recluse and can also be useful for the Duchess. You have increased maximum FP when you have 3 or more staves equipped, and your max FP will permanently increase after releasing the Sorcerer's Rise mechanism. So if you know how to do these, you're going to be able to increase your FP, and also magic attack power up is of course fantastic for the Sorcerer. As for the Iron Eye, you have poison on your ultimate, and whenever you are up against an enemy that is affected by poison, you will have increased attack power, and that is on top of having some additional ult charge in ultimate art gauge +3. In my opinion, I don't really care for the ultimate adding poison on top. I would much rather simply have a poison bow or a passive that gave my starting armament poison. But the cool thing about this is that it pretty much guarantees that the ultimate will trigger poison on the enemy, so at the very least you have a surefire way to trigger the additional attack. But still, I don't like this relic all that much. I would much rather have 2 different charges of his dash. As for the Raider, you have increased duration of the ultimate, which is quite nice because being near the ultimate gives a 15% attack increase for everyone, and improved colossal weapon attack power, which a lot of the weapons you're going to be using with the Raider are going to be those weapons, and also endurance +3 for additional stamina. As for the Revenant, you get strengthens family and allies when you use your ultimate. That is a very good effect, as again it is shared with your teammates, so if you're not playing solo, that is a very powerful effect. Items confer effects for nearby allies is pretty decent, and Starlight Shards at the start of the expedition is also pretty decent. So not a bad relic overall, although not quite powerful. Now this one for the Executor is just absolutely insane in my opinion. If you have played Executor solo, you know just how powerful having all of these in the same slot is going to be. So for starters, you have character skill boosts attack, but attacking drains HP, so whenever you are in your parry stance with the cursed sword, whenever you attack you lose a little bit of HP, but you deal about 10 to 15% additional damage, and I think that it is a very much worthy trade-off, because very often you're going to pair that with HP recovery from successful guarding, which you do get from this relic right here. Additionally, you also gain some ult charge from successfully guarding, which again, whenever you parry an attack as the Executor, that counts as a successful guard, and even when you don't perfectly time the parry and you only block an attack, that also counts as a successful guard, so you're going to be healing and getting ultimate out of that. A really amazing relic in my opinion, though it's not going to come into play as much if you're playing primarily in multiplayer. Now slowly restoring HP for self and nearby allies when your HP is low, and improved damage negation at low HP with additional vigor is pretty decent in theory, but the problem that I often see is that players will just heal themselves back up to full whenever they are low HP, so the only time this really comes into effect is whenever you are running from the storm and you are taking damage. In those instances it can help, but it's not really going to come into play a lot, so I don't recommend getting this one. You also have improved stance breaking when two-handing and improved initial standard attack. This is perfect for the Executor again when you are in the parry stance, and it's also fantastic for the Raider as well. And in case you aren't aware, improved initial standard attack quite simply refers to your R1 attacks, and poise +3 is quite nice on every character. Improved stance breaking when wielding 2 armaments is going to be perfect for something like the Duchess or the Wilder for example, and stamina recovery with each successful attack is one of the best passives in the entire game in my opinion, so having this on top of extra endurance and again the stance breaking is pretty fantastic. So once again, a very powerful relic in my opinion. Now this one is the one that I mentioned before, where I just think is straight up insane, and I think that if you go with a group, an entire group of everyone with this relic equipped, you're going to have some of the best runs you have ever had, because the attack power that you can get that is permanent from defeating these Everjail prisoners is insane. So do not skip on this one in my opinion. If you would only buy one of these, this is the one that I would buy. And lastly, you get Starlight Shards, 6 Starlight Shards in total at the start of an expedition expedition, which I just find hilarious. I honestly wouldn't recommend going for this because very often you're going to be full on with your inventory slots unless you are using these Starlight Shards during actual expeditions, but I often don't find that you need the extra FP even with the Revenant. I have done plenty of Revenant solo expeditions that I never really needed to use Starlight Shards in the middle of the expedition, but hey, I know some people are going to use this and hopefully you find better use than me. Now, the large scenic flatstone is what allows you to use 5 of this new currency and you're going to be getting a precious gift. I actually don't really know what that is, so let's go ahead and use 5 of these. Oh, it only gives you a single relic, but I guess it's guaranteed to be one of the higher rarity ones. So this one has improved attack power with 3+ hammers equipped, improved stone digger sorcery, and small pouch in possession at the start of an expedition. Not that amazing, and really, honestly, it's quite bad in my opinion. And lastly, as you can see, you can buy pretty much any skin in the entire game you want to have by using this alternative currency. So whether you want to use the regular runes or you want to go with this, now you have 2 different currencies to buy the outfit you want to buy. And of course, you cannot buy an outfit more than once. Whenever you buy it, you get this 0 on the outfit. But yeah, that is pretty cool, a different way to get more outfits. And that is it for the new Relic system, but in regards to Adele, the Gaping Jaw hard mode, he actually changes quite a lot, so let's go over some of the mechanics because it is pretty fantastic. So as I stated before, he actually starts in hard mode, which is of course going to make the fight a lot harder, especially if you end up getting eaten, because he, as usual, gets an attack buff whenever he does so. So you really gotta be careful about that. Additionally, he just seems to be dealing more damage. I was watching some of my previous runs against Gaping Jaw regular mode and I was level 12 and I was taking less damage in that run compared to the run that I did against the hard mode Gaping Jaw, where I was level 14 and was taking more damage. So that is something to look out for. Additionally, he has now these electric attacks all over the place, and when you get him to 50% HP, he enters a new second phase. So I guess that would be a third phase. And now in his new phase, he has these big spikes, electric spikes on his mouth, really taking on the Devil Jaw appearance, but he now has a lot more AoEs, his big AoE stomps that take a lot of area on the map. He's gonna be spamming a lot of those, but more importantly, he has a brand new mechanic where he pretty much creates this huge AoE storm on the middle of the map, and your goal is to get inside of that storm, because if you stand outside it, you're going to constantly be taking damage, and if you stay there for a long time, it's going to quickly add up. So the way you combat this is by going into these blue pillars of light, and you can actually go there. You can do one of those big leaps into the air that you do when you are just traversing on an expedition, and you can use those to jump into the middle of the storm, into the eye of the storm, and you're going to be safe. You're going to be able to hit him for a while, and that is going to give you a big window of opportunity to deal a decent amount of damage. The fight itself is very hectic. I feel like a lot of players are going to struggle on their first runs, especially if they don't bring a poison weapon with them. Now, I personally did not bring a poison weapon as I didn't find any on my first run, but I believe bringing a poison weapon with you is going to allow you to make Adele go into that attack that he does on the normal mode, where he starts spewing poison onto the floor, and that attack is very slow, takes a long time, is very easy to dodge, and he just stands there for about 10 seconds, so you're free to reel in a lot of damage on him during that time, and that damage is going to add up and make the fight so much easier. Honestly, that is pretty much it for the update so far, and I'm very excited about the upcoming updates now, because I really did not expect them to be adding the hard mode for these bosses this soon into the game's life cycle, and the fact that they also took into consideration so many quality of life additions and changes that people were asking for, like being able to change the shifting earth, having more goblets for the characters, and now these new fantastic relics that you can straight up purchase. This is all fantastic news to me. So I'm very thankful to FromSoft for having done this and adding this to the game. Very much looking forward to all the new Light Lords, and of course, if you guys have enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to the channel, as I will be making many more videos about Nightreign. I have a couple already on the way out, as I have soloed every expedition with every single character. I've almost put 200 hours of game time into this game. I absolutely love it, and I want to share it with you guys. But with that being said, my name is Dark Hero. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, happy hunting.